Is Mexico more dangerous than the United States of America? This is a question that I often see in the comments section, and a question that I honestly get asked from everybody, even here in Kansas City, about whether or not I feel comfortable having a home in Merida, Mexico. Now, in fairness, the state of Yucatan and the city that I purchased in is one of the safest in Mexico, if not the safest in Mexico. But it's still a question that gets brought up, and it's probably something that if you have traveled there, you heard from somebody in your family, your friends, your network, whatever it might be. So today we're going to dispel some rumors, we're going to talk about a few things, we're going to have a lighthearted discussion about something that's very difficult to talk about. And with that being said, I do want to issue an initial warning. We're going to talk about certain crimes and stuff like that, and I'm going to give several examples of situations that I've seen and things that you've probably seen in the media. This is in no way, shape, and or form meant to be a provocative thing. This is just a calm conversation about why travel to Mexico shouldn't be scary and why that is. So I hope you enjoy the video, and let's roll the intro. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Alexander Howell, and this channel is devoted to travel and real estate and all kinds of different things. And the reason that it really started was because my wife and I purchased a home, as I said, in Merida, Mexico, and purchased it, renovated it, and absolutely love it. It's the neighborhood, it's the people, it's the city itself, and the fact that it's a colonial city that is within 30 minutes from the beach. And so if you want to see any of that content, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. That lets you know anytime that any of these videos comes out, or if I live stream, you'll be the first to know, and you can come on here and ask any questions that you might have. You can also follow me in any of my social media. That's all down below. Basically, go to Instagram, Twitter, all those kind of things. Look up Alexander from KC, like Kansas City, Alexander from KC, and that's how easy I am to find. You can also text me if you have a question, whether it's about this video or another one. It's 816-727-7740, or email me, alexander@alexanderhowell.com. Again, all of that information is down below. Same as the members and the Patreons that are a part of this channel. I want to say thank you to all of you first and foremost. Very much appreciated. Now let's get back to this video. Again, to summarize this video just a bit, what I'm trying to talk about in this video is just a simple comparison between the two countries. And I think what you will find is that they are not as far apart as you might imagine. And I'm going to include, by the way, a lot of different links to the websites and a bunch of the research that I did in the description down below. So if you want to take a look at all of the things that I found, it will be in the description, so you can come on here and comment and tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm right, if I read the data incorrectly. But I think what you're going to find by the end of this video is that we are not too dissimilar. We are actually closer than you might think. We share a border, we share a lot of the same problems, and we should probably come together in that. But one of the main differences that I found in this, and this is repeated over several articles, is that the American justice system, when it comes to investigating crimes, is, I have to say, far superior. No matter how you feel about cops in this country, whatever it might be, when a crime occurs, there are certain things that have to happen. Now again, there are many different opinions on this, but by and large, no matter what you're talking about, no matter where you are in this country, you are going to find that crimes get investigated, and that is something that happens. We have a justice system that, while not perfect, is one of the best in the entire world, and I stand by that as somebody who is proud of where I'm from. With Mexico, it gets slightly complicated because it has to do with a lot of the statistics with regard to the amount of crimes that are reported as opposed to the ones that are solved, and it's on both sides. Crimes that occur, reported, and are solved. So the best data that I could actually compile is that only 25% of crimes that occur are actually reported. Of the crimes that occur, 5 are successfully prosecuted. Now I have to state, and this is one of the YouTube shorts that I created, but one of the ones that I have seen on almost a consistent basis is that femicide, that is the killing of women for being women, is of not just a growing concern, but a concern that has been around for quite some time, and it is not something that is investigated, that is prosecuted as much as it should be, without question. Obviously, the goal is 100% of the time, but this is something that is so incredibly low that in cities like Merida, you have protests kind of all the time. It is something that needs to be discussed and dealt with, but this is kind of why we're here, right? And this is something that has been covered by Vice News and several other news organizations. But one thing that you'll notice when you talk about the amount of crime is it depends on the state of Mexico where this crime is happening, the same way that it does in the United States. The state of Yucatan, the state of Chiapas, they are some of the lowest states for crime in the country, the same way that others are in the United States. And some of the ones in Mexico are lower than a lot of the ones in the United States. So So when we look at the crime figures, it is interesting to see that depending on the major metropolitan area, depending on the state, depending on the simple location, it may be far safer to be in one country than the other. And this is why Mark Twain, who is from Missouri, obviously is one of my favorite people, but he has a fantastic line. That is, facts are stubborn, but statistics are pliable. I can make it sound like one country is far safer than the other simply by comparing Chicago to Yucatan or Chicago to Merida. I can say that one is safer than the other simply by the crime statistics. I could also talk about states like Sinaloa that have a problem with cartel crime would be less safe than, say, Vermont. But the difference is that even though crime in some areas is covered, we have 24/7 cable news and they talk about stuff like this all the time. And the one thing they love to talk about is the fact that there are Americans that get killed in Mexico. And trust me, this is true, but you need to know the facts about it as well. And for those of you who are watching this video thinking, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to travel to Mexico or not, let me give you one statistic to make you feel much, much better about what you're thinking. Because I absolutely think you should travel to Mexico, and I think that this is something you need to hear. And we're going to talk about the latest data that I was able to find, which is data from 2021. And that is that 75 US citizens died of homicide of the 28.8 million that visited Mexico in that same year. And if I read the data correctly, that is simply the amount that traveled to Mexico, not even the expats that currently live there. So 75 US citizens to 28, almost 30 million people. Oh, and by the way, to update that, in 2022, post-pandemic, 33.5+ million people visited Mexico. The fact of the matter is that crime that is talked about, especially when it comes to some of those worst crimes, which are obviously horrific, they get reported on. So they are simply put into the news cycle to show that you should be scared of something. Now, I can tell you that myself, many of the other channels that are on YouTube, and a lot of the people that I talk to, especially the ones that follow this channel, have not had a single issue. Now, that's not to say that it won't happen. That's not to say that you won't get mugged or robbed or anything else. But it does mean that the level of fear that people have when traveling to the country of Mexico is a little bit ridiculous. And really quick, I want to go through, and I'm going to look over here for just a minute because this is where I have all the statistics that we're talking about. And this is from a website. And again, I'll put it down below that kind of compares these statistics. And I believe these are a few years old. It's the best data that I could find, but we're going to go through a few of them, and especially ones that I think have a lot to do with the way people view these countries. But the one thing that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to Mexico and the United States, no matter what the issue is, a lot of the crime that is committed is against the citizens of that country. But with regard to Mexico, the reason that some of their murder rates are high does have a lot to do with cartel activity. With the United States, it has a lot to do with gun violence. Now, I'm not going to let you know what my political opinion is on the Second Amendment or anything like that. You can draw your own conclusions from it. But again, I would absolutely, just like I do on every single one of these videos, ask you to research it yourself. I'm simply trying to show you that the statistics on each can be swayed depending on which country you want to look better, best, or otherwise. So here we go. When it comes to crime levels, Mexico is 57.18, which is ranked 28th, which is 2% more than the United States, which is ranked 30th at 55.84. With regard to murder rate, Mexico is ranked 15th. The United States is ranked 5th. Murders with firearms per million, 24.42. Mexico is ranked 12th. The United States is ranked 10th with 32.57, which is 33% more than Mexico. When it comes to violent crime, gun crimes per 100 residents, Mexico is ranked 40th at 15. The United States is 88.8, ranked first, 6 times more than Mexico. Violent crime, intentional homicide rate, and this is where the numbers start to shift a bit. Violent crime, intentional homicide rate, Mexico is ranked first, 3 times more than the United States at 15. The United States is ranked 7th at 4.7. Violent crime murder rate, Mexico is ranked 2nd in the world, 25,757, 98% more than the United States at 12,996, ranked 9th. Violent crime murder rate per million people, 218.49. Mexico is ranked 7th, 5 times more than the United States. And when it comes to other violent crimes like rape, Mexico is ranked 4th, 14,993. The United States is ranked first with 6 times more than Mexico at over 84,000. And violent crime rates per million people, Mexico is ranked 18th at 127.18. The United States is ranked 9th, 2 times more than Mexico at 274.04. Now, I know those statistics are hard to hear, and it's not anything fun for anybody. This is not something that anybody wants to be in the top 10, top 50. We all want to be in the best possible place that we are. But this is the kind of thing that I want to bring to light with people. When you think about being fearful of travel and you hear about crime statistics and you hear about these things that are tough to hear, and you're constantly fed that knowledge by people who need clicks and eyeballs to pay for advertisers to watch their stuff, they are going to make things as incendiary as they possibly can. And just like anywhere in the world, there are certain parts of cities that can have a bigger issue with crime than other areas of the cities. You can go to certain districts that are built to be more hotel-oriented, more tourist-oriented than others. In any state in the nation, that is true. And those areas tend to have less crime than other areas. But as I tell people on our Facebook group, which is Travel to Number 2 Merida, on Facebook/groups/Travel to Merida. But as I try to tell people on that group, on my Reddit, on the comment section, and everything here on this channel, you can also avoid these things by just being intelligent about where you are. Now, there is certain things that are just going to happen, and that's horrible and they're wrong, and we all should fight against that. But you can also avoid a lot of things. One of the most frustrating stories that I heard a lot of people come to me about was a story about somebody who, I believe it was Playa del Carmen, a young man who unfortunately was killed. He was an American tourist, and everybody was like, you can't go to Playa del Carmen. I can't believe you went to Playa del Carmen. That's terrible. Well, then you looked up the story, and this particular individual was up and inebriated at 2 a.m., went to somebody he didn't know and asked for another illicit substance, went with somebody he didn't know, and there was an altercation, and the man ended up unalived. And that's horrible, and that's unfortunate, and nobody should ever have to deal with that, and I can't imagine being a family member. But at the same time, if I were in Kansas City or in the suburb of Kansas City where I'm from, and I went out to a club late and got inebriated, then I asked somebody that I didn't know for an illicit substance, and I went out with them at 2 o'clock in the morning, I could get in the exact same amount of trouble that I could there. And that's where my frustration kind of lies. So again, I have a bunch of articles and a bunch of commentary down below. If you have any questions about that, if you have any opinions about it, which I'm sure a lot of people do at this point in this video, obviously feel free to comment. I try to reply to everybody that's respectful in my comment section, and I even try to reply to the replies even though I don't see it. And if you're still here and you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like button. I know it's not the most fun video that you can possibly watch, but if you like watching videos that are very different from this and normally incredibly happy, hit the subscribe button, check out my channel. There's a bunch of other very happy videos, but this was just one that kind of hit me as something that I felt I needed to talk about, even though it's not the most fun thing in the world, but it does have to do with travel to Mexico and the things that I hear on a near constant basis. So I'm not going to ask you if I did already, I apologize, but I'm not going to ask you if you enjoyed the video, but just thank you for being a part of this video. You already know about my social media, Alexander from KC. You know how to contact me. Again, thank you to the patrons and the members. You guys allow me to do videos like this, and just really appreciate everything that you guys do. Mexico to me is a beautiful country, as is the United States of America, and the fact that there is so much fear between the two is very frustrating to me, because I do have such a love for each. My home country, as well as a country that I now own a home in and have loved since the first moment that I stepped foot on the soil of that wonderful nation. So the fact that we have to talk about this stuff is, again, slightly frustrating, but at the same time, it's nice to have the conversation so that everybody can actually understand what's happening and that you should feel safe when you go anywhere. So again, thank you so much for watching. I obviously very much appreciate every single one of you, and as always, peace. Better for this video than most, I think.